Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Studs Up podcast. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness a union of Garrett Love
Thank you.
and Mrs. Garrett Love, who is not here, in holy matrimony, which is an honourable estate that is not to be entered into unadvisedly or lightly, but reverently and soberly. Fuck being sober.
Yeah,
Garrett's got engaged!
Hey!
Hey! Oh, amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations to Garrett. Mohammed isn't here, which is ridiculous because then we could have had a huge celebration. But anyway, it's okay. Garrett got engaged.
I did. She said yes. For some reason. She
We don't know
decided to
why.
stick it out. Yeah, I can't figure it out. But
I have one theory, and I think it might be because of the astounding success of the Studs Up podcast over the last few weeks.
obviously, yeah. So we started dating about a month ago when she heard the first podcast, and then it's just been going super well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's also after me for my money.
Yes. The money all of the money that we've made from the Studs Up
Yeah.
podcast so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I'm in the hole from this show. So.
Yeah, none of us have made any money. Okay, when Garrett got down on one knee, she said,
She was like, "Can you believe it?
also,
we
if
haven't
you,
seen anything like it again."
if you couldn't tell, we have a soundboard now.
Yeah, we're fancy boys.
Yeah, this is what's getting us in the hole, me just doing all this shit.
Yeah, but I mean, we are on a. I know we're all really excited about the list we were just included in.
Way! Yeah, we
Yeah.
just got included. If you didn't see on our Facebook page, we just got included in the 25 podcasts to listen to this month. I think that was the name from Soapbox, which is an online magazine. If you want to go to our Facebook page and check it out, you can. And go to Soapbox's Facebook page as well. I've been looking at their content. It's it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, very honored.
So thank you very much to Soapbox and the author of the article that wrote that.
Right. Ryan, one thing I just thought of that I would like to talk about today maybe is the article I sent you the other day about scouts in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So the article, basically, I read it on Facebook, was going over how Premier League scouts recently are afraid to invest in youth players because of how important it is that they get the TV money for being in the Premier League, and that it's not worth taking the risk on a player that's, you can get him now for $6 million and in 2 years he's going to be $60 million, but the chances it's not worth the risk for the scouts to put their reputation on the line for this kid if he doesn't end up being what they want him to be. Like, I know one of the examples was Allison got bought. I can't remember who they bought him from, but Roma bought him for $6 million, and a year or two later, we all know, he just went for $80 million or whatever it was, something ridiculous.
Right.
That might be USD, I don't know, but he went for a ton of money. But it was basically just saying that Premier League scouts are scared to bank their reputation on young talent just because, how important it is to get those TV checks.
And then if we look at a player that's quote unquote even more proven, Pogba left Manchester United for free and then went back for what was it, 80 something million. So yeah, I completely agree. So do you think that then that means we're moving into like a Premier League level where scouts will slowly become obsolete and it will be in favor of like a director of football approach, or will there always be a need for scouts? I think there will always be a need for scouts, because if Manchester United didn't scout Cristiano Ronaldo, we maybe wouldn't have seen one of the best players of all time. Surely he would have gone to a different club, but it may have been at a different pace. He may not have developed as he could have, especially at the time when Manchester United's coaching staff and manager were who they were. Yeah, and then I'll pull Manchester City into the discussion as well. There's players that I remember my dad always said, because my dad's a Manchester City fan. I remember my dad always used to say, I think it was when Elano was playing for Manchester City and Aguero came the first time as well. He'd go and watch them in the pub, and he'd say, "I don't even know any of these players. I just enjoy watching them play." And that there's a lot to be said about the scouting team that brought those players in, because I think a lot of Manchester City fans, whether they'll admit it or not, really didn't have any idea of who any of these, well, majority of these players were when the money was really like being pushed in at the beginning. Obviously, now they're household names because Manchester City are a great club and they're able to get the players from big teams. But back when it was early on, people didn't really know who Manchester City was, and credit has to go to the scouting team for that. But now,
no, I think
go ahead.
Right, I think the scouts they're going to remain important, but I'm not super into, I don't know, like how many scouts a club may have on staff or who they utilize a lot. I think the number of scouts that a club needs is going to go down in the Premier League a lot because, maybe a few years ago they had 15 or 20 and now they could probably get away with like 5.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of Premier League clubs, especially the big boys, they don't like to take the chances because it's too risky. And it's not to say that the big boys, Liverpool, Tottenham, Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, not to say that they're going to be at risk of going down if they bought a player and he doesn't turn out to be what they expected. Right. But, they want that Champions League spot. They want a Europe spot. So it comes down to that. So I think a lot of it is I think the number of scouts the number of necessary scouts at a club is going to decrease. But I don't think, a club's ever going to be like, oh, we don't need any scouts. We're only going to buy well-known players. I don't think that'll happen. I mean, the article that we're talking about was talking about how clubs don't want to, risk the signing these no name or, little known about them players, because for a lower, I don't want to say lower level, but like a lesser team in the Premier League, if they go down, the TV payout for being in the Premier League last year was $94 million, I think. So that's a lot of money for some of these clubs.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, any of them, honestly. But so a lot of them, they don't want to miss out on that money. And that's what it comes down to for a lot of them. But the big boys, they don't want to miss out on Europe spots. And so I think scouts are always going to be important. But I think the importance or like the number of scouts a club may have around will probably go down. And they may just try to focus more on proven talent.
Yeah, I would say so. And then also to piggyback off what you were saying as well, I think teams are scared of losing advertising money as well. It's not just the TV money that they get from Sky and NBC and the other ones abroad. It's players that like Aguero and Pogba and Sanchez and Lukaku who make these teams so much money in advertising that it's almost worth spending triple or quadruple how much it would cost for an unproven guy that can potentially win you the league in 3-4 years than have an underperforming Pogba, spend 90 million on him, but make 100 million every single year, and they don't care if they're going to win the league or not anymore because of the amount of money that's coming in, especially when you look at probably, you'd have to think 90% of the owners in the Premier League right now probably don't really care too much about success on the pitch. It's all about success off the pitch and how much money's coming into the clubs,
which is a little sad.
Yeah, and it's definitely sad. And hopefully, I think that there's going to be a point where it blows up and the market gets too much. Nobody's buying, and we restart. We have to start again somewhere. But maybe that's for the better for the Premier League. But obviously, at this point, we're in a position right now where it's all about success off the pitch and nobody really cares too much about success on the pitch. It even to give more of a cynical view of Manchester City's recent documentary that got released by Amazon. Great documentary, by the way. I watched a couple episodes and it's really well put together, but it's quite obviously a marketing ploy by Manchester City to push them out to the United States, to wherever Amazon is putting the documentary. It's a great documentary and it shows the record-breaking season that Manchester City had, but it's not there because they won the league. It's there because they want to make money in other continents.
No, I agree, but I mean, I am very biased to that because I really enjoy it,
Right.
and they couldn't have picked a better season to
Oh,
do a
absolutely.
documentary on.
And I think Amazon are so lucky to have had that happen. You know, they've done the same series. They've I don't think they've ever done a soccer one, but they've done a couple NFL ones. I think they did the LA Rams, I know for sure. And then I think they've done a basketball one as well. But they've never done one that has been this successful, and obviously that's going to make Amazon a lot of money. It's going to make Manchester City a lot of money. It served its purpose, basically.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually haven't finished the documentary series yet, just because the episodes are like an hour long.
Right. And I've been watching. The reason I haven't finished it yet is because I've been watching Wild Wild Country on Netflix. So if anybody listening has been watching that, that is a banger, a certified banger.
Yeah, let us know about it on the socials.
Yeah, Wild Wild Country, certified banger.
Got the Ryan Oldham seal of approval.
Yeah, Ryan Oldham seal of approval. Oh, yeah! Wild Wild Country. Right. I have a gripe. I have a rant that has nothing to do with soccer. Parenting in the 21st century and the problem with it. And this is coming from a non-parent. So I am more than qualified to talk about this subject.
Obviously.
Yeah. I have 2 rants. I'm actually going to save one till next week. So I'm in the local donut shop here in the suburbs of Minneapolis. Shout out to Yo-Yo Donuts. Because I know they're listening.
Certified banger.
Yeah, I know they're listening. Certified banger Yo-Yo Donuts. I wasn't getting them for myself. Although I could have easily. I'm getting them for a client. Yeah, I got a dozen for a client and 2 dozen for me. And a kid comes in, 2 kids come in. One of them is very well behaved. The mother is with them. The other one is fucking touching everything it possibly could. Kids do that, I understand. He's not pissing me off in any way. But the mum is getting irate. She's getting really annoyed. So he's smacking on the ice cream glass thing, and then he's picking up the juice, and he's like, I want this! And then, but obviously he's not allowed the juice, and then out of nowhere, the mother goes, what are we here for? And like, there's a line. It's not just me and her. There's...
Right.
It's 8 a.m. in a donut shop. There's a few people there. And then the kid goes, donuts? I almost burst out laughing because at this point...
Then she goes, correct, dipshit!
Because the only thing you can hear at this point is her and her kids, because everybody's stopped talking, and then the low hum of the radio that's coming out of the speakers.
Right.
And then he goes, donuts? And then she goes, yeah, donuts. Are we here to touch things? He goes, no. He goes, right, then stop touching things and wait for your donut. And I thought that, so maybe parents can write in. Is that a good way of parenting? Yelling at a child to ask him why they're in a certain place? Because embarrass this kid. Because the kids seem to be at the age where, I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but I have days, it's usually on a Sunday after I've had a fair few drinks the night before, where I remember every embarrassing thing that's happened to me of my entire life, and I lie on the couch all day and think about those things and how, obviously, the people that were there never remember, but I remember it so vividly in my head. That kid is going to wake up 25, 26 years old. He's going to have had a few summer shandies the night before, and he's going to remember, are we here to touch things? And then he's going to ask his kid life lessons. So... if you're in a donut shop, shout out to Yo-Yo Donuts.
Ew.
Shout out to Yo-Yo Donuts. I know they're listening. If you're in a donut store and your child is touching things, politely take them to one side and tell them they need to stop touching because they're going to get their donut. And if they don't touch things, they're not going to get their donut. Don't yell at this kid.
When I was a kid, I just got the shit kicked out of me, so... It's like, all right, pick the lesser of 2 evils: mental harassment or physical abuse. It's
true, yeah.
6 of 1.
Okay, so first segment, as always, is Dave Says. Dave writes in every week with his thoughts on the Premier League. Picks a few games, he writes about them, and then we read them out on the podcast. And then one day we'll have him on. Yeah. Well, we have to have him on next year. Well, next year we've already decided he's going to be in the fantasy league.
Yeah, Dave doesn't know it yet, but he's my best friend.
Yeah, it isn't. He's invited to your wedding, right?
Yeah, he is. He's my best man.
Oh, excellent. All right, so Dave. I'm not gonna start from the beginning of Dave's email because the beginning will be a great transition into what you want to talk about, Garrett. But
good.
So Dave, halfway down his email, says, "Last week I asked the question: was it too early to start considering if West Ham were already in a relegation battle? I don't think we have to consider it anymore. They most certainly are. If performances and results don't improve quickly, I fear we could see the same sort of ugly scenes we saw last year with fan protests, pitch invasions, and anything that isn't going to help the team turn it around." He says, "Finally, I wanted to finish by touching on what's happening with Leroy Sané."
Yep.
And I know you want to talk about Manchester City, so maybe we'll get into this in a little more detail at the end. But Dave says, "I've heard 3 different rumours, one of which really worries me. I've heard he's not yet 100% fit after coming back overweight following the summer break. I've also heard his confidence has taken a huge knock following his omission from the Germany squad for the World Cup. The rumour that really worries me is that Real Madrid have tapped up his agent about a potential move and his head has been turned. It would be a huge blow to lose a player of his current ability and future potential. However, at the same time, no player is bigger than the club, and if he doesn't want to be here, then we should sell, but sell on our terms. For a 22-year-old of his ability in the current market, City should be talking about a fee in the region of 100 plus million, and that's in pounds. So $125 million plus. But let's hope this is just a rumor and he stays at City for years to come. Keep up the good work, Dave." Thank you very much, Dave. You too. I wanted to touch on Sané a little bit because out of those 3 rumors, I haven't heard any of those. Okay. The first 2, I think, are definitely plausible. The thing that I heard was that now that Mendy is back into the team, Sané just doesn't have a spot there anymore. Mendy covers, I know they play in a different position, but Sané was there to cover what Mendy couldn't do last season because he was injured. Now Mendy is in the squad. It renders Sané's last season position completely obsolete. The tactics have changed. Mendy is there. And obviously we've seen, as we're going to go into later, Mendy having an excellent season already. And there's just no spot for Sané in that team anymore. And obviously this could be a rumor as well. The 4th rumor to add to your pile, Dave. Potentially that could be it. Sané replacing Ronaldo at Madrid. They could definitely do that. I think Ronaldo left Real Madrid early enough, in my opinion, for Real Madrid to have done something about it. And if they were going to get Sané, I think it would have happened already. But I'm not sure. Maybe he's not fit. Maybe he's not right there in the head. But tactics have changed, in my opinion, and I think Mendy is keeping him out of the side right now.
I think the way, obviously everyone knows, because I've said it many, many times, how much I love Leroy Sané. He is one of my favorite City players.
Yep.
I love everything about him. He's an amazing player, so fast, and he's just he gives defenses so much to worry about because he can do so many things. The fact that Mendy keeps him out of the squad, I disagree with a little bit because Mendy's whole objective is to drive forward and cross the ball. That's not what Leroy Sané does. Leroy, he gets the ball, he runs at you as fast as he can, which is really, really fast, and then he just does a couple step overs and he beats you on one side and then he wants to go score, which, I mean, Mendy's been playing well. He's got 4 assists. I think he's leading the league in assists right now.
Him, Alonso, and Robertson all have well, I'm not sure if they have 4 each, but I know they're all up there on the charts.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure Mendy's at the top right now because he's been playing really well. I don't think Mendy being back should keep Leroy out of the team because honestly, I think overall Leroy is a better player than Mendy, and he's more, Mendy's best quality is how well he gets up and down the field, and then he puts that one cross in that hopefully someone's there for. Leroy creates goals on his own.
Sure.
And he does it better than, people a lot older than he does, or a lot older than he is, because he's got a lot of raw talent. But I love Leroy Sané. If he left, I would be absolutely devastated. I just bought his jersey last year because I love him so much. If he left, I'd be devastated. The fact that he's probably upset after the World Cup, I totally understand. But he did just get called back up to the Germany squad.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he just got called back up. So maybe that'll help his confidence if he is feeling down on himself. The fact that he came back overweight, I hadn't noticed that, but maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not that observant. He didn't appear to be overweight, and whenever he played against, it was when we thrashed Huddersfield.
Yep.
That own goal was 100% Leroy Sané. Had it not been an own goal, Sané should have scored it. So I don't think that he's not playing well right now. I don't know why he's not getting in the team right now, to be honest with you. And that's part of my rant that we'll get to a little bit later.
Yeah.
Because he's my...
Well, I did just do a little bit of research, and Pep Guardiola in the past has said that Sané last season was a solution to provide width when Mendy was unavailable. So that goes back to my point, for as long as Mendy stays fit, Sané is out of the starting 11. Now, obviously, that is on the left-hand side. Sané is more than capable of playing on the right-hand side, but
we have
you signed Mahrez over the break. So, and then obviously there's an article online. It's from goal.com. We're not sure of the validity of goal.com, but apparently Sané was left out of the squad because of attitude concerns this weekend. It's amazing to me how a player can go from he win young play? I think he won young player of the season.
Young player of the year.
Yeah, it's amazing how a player can go from young player of the season to being left out of a squad for quote unquote attitude concerns. I'd like to subscribe to the logic that it is Mendy keeping him out of the team because I know how good Sané is. We all know how good Sané is. I would hate for it to be if he's overweight or he has attitude problems. He didn't have any attitude problems last season, at least what we know of. So what happened over the summer to create these attitude problems? Maybe it was the signing of Mahrez. I suppose we'll never know. Or maybe we will.
What I would like to see happen... I don't want Sané to leave because I know how good he is, and we've all seen how good he is. He was amazing last season, and hopefully it's just a confidence thing, and hopefully, if he does have attitude issues right now, that he, getting recalled back up to the Germany squad maybe will help, because, he's 22 years old. He's a stud. He probably knows he's a stud. So I could see him being, a little upset about certain things. But I don't want to lose a player like that over something like this. And I don't want a player like Mendy to keep... I love Benjamin Mendy, but I don't want Mendy to keep a player like Sané out of the squad because, City is more of an attacking team than a defensive team, as we've seen over the past several years.
Yep, especially under Guardiola.
Yeah, way more attacking-minded than defensive-minded. So I would much rather have a player like Sané and then Mendy in, just because we beat teams by scoring more goals than them, not by fighting defensive battles against them. So I think I'm very biased to this because I really do. I like Leroy Sané a lot, and I really like the way he plays. If he were to leave to Real Madrid or anyone for that matter, I would be heartbroken because I love him as a player.
All right, Dave, thanks a lot for your email. Hopefully, maybe you'll want to reply to that. We'll see what happens over the next week. Obviously, with the international break, and Sané did get picked, so we'll see if he plays well for Germany. You'll never know. But Dave, thanks, and we will talk to you next week. Shout out to Dave.
Dave, let me know what you think about the Mendy-Sané thing. I want to know what you think.
Also, what size chest and waist for the suit. For the best man suit.
And girth.
So we're going to move on to our second segment of the week where we talk about the Premier League games. Today we're going to talk about Watford against Tottenham in an incredible turnaround where Tottenham went 1-0 ahead away at Watford, and Watford turned it around and ended up winning the game 2-1 to take it 4 wins from 4 and leaving Garrett's relegation predictions in shambles.
Yep. No, I predicted Watford were going to have a terrible year this year. But I also, I'm not defending myself because they're doing amazingly well compared to how I thought they were going to do. But I also heard Troy Deeney might leave. He's still there.
There's definitely there would definitely be a reason for him to leave. He's been playing very well.
Right. But in that game, Watford scored all the goals. Spurs' only goal was an own goal.
Yep.
So Watford scored all the goals in the game. Yeah, I think Watford right now is a better team than Arsenal, I might say.
Quality of football, definitely.
And right, Arsenal beat Cardiff
just about
3-2. 3-2. Arsenal beat Cardiff. They're the worst team in the league. They shouldn't even be.
All three of us have them going down.
And, right. Cardiff is a terrible
Every time somebody
team,
says Cardiff, it should end with because they're a joke.
Right. Yeah. It's a joke. But so's Arsenal this year. The fact that Unai Emery came in and people think he's gonna save them. No. Quit playing Guendouzi, quit playing, what's his name? There's another kid that they're playing that I don't like that much.
Is this maybe are we going back to the scouting discussion then about Arsenal? Obviously, we'll come back to Watford.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Arsenal really quick.
I think
because because obviously for a team like Arsenal who haven't had success for so long. They've had FA Cups in the past 10 years, but they haven't had a Premier League title for a long time. And we said at the start of the podcast, maybe the Premier League needs to go back to utilizing scouts a lot more than they currently do. And they're simply not doing that right now. It seems like Arsenal are doing that, playing players like Guendouzi and the Uruguayan, is it Torreira? The Uruguayan central midfielder. Yeah, I guess I am contradicting myself when I say that the Premier League should go back, but then also making fun of Arsenal for doing that and really not playing very well and in many times failing to secure a win or just about winning against a Cardiff team that have no reason to be in the Premier League. So I suppose I guess what I want to say is it's all well and good scouting these players, but is it worth it when you really need that success, especially when the fans are on your back from day one, like the Arsenal fans are? It's a very fickle fan base, and that's nothing against Arsenal's fans because Manchester United fans are exactly the same, and I think the majority of Premier League fans are, unless you're a lower level and that's where you're going to be. The fans are fickle. And Arsenal fans, at least the ones we see on Arsenal Fan TV, are the best of that fickle bunch. So I suppose I don't want to contradict myself, but I'm going to have to when it comes to Arsenal. They need success and they need it now, or they're just going to go into the manager merry-go-round that we've seen at Chelsea over the past few years. So, go ahead.
And not only did they barely squeak past Cardiff this week, they barely squeaked past West Ham last week.
Yep.
Two teams that are not playing good football right now. Well, Cardiff isn't capable of it. West Ham may be. They're just not. They've barely squeaked past two teams that are going to be at the lower end of the table this year. And I don't see it getting any better. And it's not that the quality isn't there. It's that something is wrong. And I don't know if Emery has an answer. So far, it doesn't look like he does. Something's wrong. Arsenal should not be letting Cardiff score 2 goals against them.
At home or not.
This conversation was about Watford originally, but I think Arsenal, they have had a terrible start to the season, which is not what Emery wanted. And, they won 2 games. Congratulations. You beat 2 of the worst teams in the league by a goal.
Right.
That's not going to lead to much towards the end of the season. Yep. I don't think they're going to be in Europe next year. I don't think they may not even finish in the top 10. We'll see how many more easy layups they get with these, bottom of the table teams that are going to end up beating them by a goal eventually, or they're going to draw a lot of games to these guys. And, I think it's only downhill from here for Arsenal unless they make a big change. And I think a lot of it stems from their midfield, where they're playing the likes of Guendouzi.
Yeah, they don't have a player in their midfield that you could say is like commands a midfield. Every team in the top 6, minus Arsenal, has a midfielder that completely dominates that midfield. Whether they play well every game or not is a different story. But every team in that top 6 has one, and Arsenal don't. And they've signed Torreira to be that guy, and you can't. And in my opinion, it's just it will not work if you sign a guy that's never played in the Premier League before, may not even speak English, and then you throw him in to that midfield to be the Pogba, to be the Fernandinho, to be the Kante. It's not going to work. And granted, Xhaka's there as well, and he's never been that guy. He never will be that guy.
I think if you ask an Arsenal fan, they would say that their guy like that would be Mesut Ozil. And I saw a funny comparison between him and David Silva not that long ago, where people were arguing that Ozil was better than David Silva over the majority of the last several seasons.
Based on what?
Goals and assists per year.
How many Premier Leagues has he won?
Right. But the funny part is a lot of those seasons he was in Madrid. Like, okay, if you're not getting the assist to Ronaldo, you're not getting the assist to Benzema. Like a lot of those years he was in Madrid. It's not even comparable. Now he's at a team surrounded by a couple really good attacking players, like Aubameyang, and Lacazette is a good attacking player, but I don't think he's getting a lot of time this year. Aubameyang seems to be their main guy. He's a really good striker, super fast, but I never hear about Ozil having a great game anymore. But I just thought it was so funny that they even had the audacity to compare him to David Silva, who is just a far better midfielder than Mesut Ozil has ever been. And Silva just does it year after year. But that's me just hating on that article because I was like, you people are ridiculous if you think they're even comparable players.
Yeah. And I mean, even if we take away the, obviously it's going to be an Arsenal fan against a City fan opinion there. It's not, and in my opinion, David Silva's the better player, hands down. But if we're going to compare the two, at least have it as when Ozil was in the Premier League and when David Silva was in the Premier League. You can't, because, you could have, Pogba, you could do Pogba at Juventus and Pogba at Manchester United. Pogba at Juventus was the better player. Yeah. It doesn't solve anything.
Right. Yeah.
So, so let's finish the Arsenal talk with, and then we'll go back to Watford, who we haven't given enough credit because we really went way off on a tangent there. But
we did.
Watford, who have started expertly, they are already a third of the way to safety. And at this point, regardless of whether they fall off, which I think everybody is expecting them to do, I don't think there's going to be another Leicester season for a long, long time, maybe not even in our lifetimes. But even if they fall off, they have enough points already after the first 4 games, 12 points, to easily be considered mid-table and maybe even pushing for a Europa League spot.
Yeah, no, that'd be amazing. They've been playing really well. It's just, can they keep it up?
Yeah, and Troy Deeney if Troy Deeney leaves in January, which I'm not sure whether he will. I think he would probably want to stay the course, especially with how well they're playing. We'll see where it goes. If they're still up there in January, I think he'd probably stay to see if they qualify for Europe. But next season, if they don't go and he keeps up his performances, definitely there'll probably be a quote unquote bigger team looking at him, maybe an Everton or somebody like that. But overall, and then to talk about Tottenham for a second as well, I think Pochettino earlier in the week said that beating Manchester United shouldn't put these players in the mindset that they can beat anybody because it's a false positive. Which I don't know if he's throwing shade at United there, but maybe he is. Maybe he is.
He's definitely. I would take it that way.
Yeah, which is fair enough. But he said we can't go to Watford and expect Watford to roll over just because we've beaten Manchester United at home. And that's exactly what the players did. They didn't get out of that mindset of we can beat anybody, and they didn't, and they were punished for it. And obviously, I think any manager in the Premier League is looking at Watford's set piece play. Both goals came from set pieces, headers, and anybody is looking at that and thinking, here's exactly how I'm going to take corners. Here's exactly how I'm going to take free kicks against Tottenham. and it could be their downfall.
I was the only one who put Tottenham in my top 6 this year. I think they'll finish above Arsenal at least, but you guys didn't even include them in your top 6. So
yeah,
I'm feeling pretty good about them. I mean, they did just lose to Watford. Maybe it was an off week. City drew Wolves last week. Barely beat freaking Newcastle this past weekend.
Right. Which we will get into. Shall we?
Savior. Kyle
so let's read the beginning of Dave's email then, and then we'll transition into what you wanted to talk about. Dave says Alisson, who according to Liverpool fans is the best keeper in the world, is starting to look a bit dodgy. He almost got caught out last week against Brighton, and this week Leicester made him pay. Obviously, they did win the game, so they're on 12 points along with Watford, but it could have been very different on another day. He said he's lucky it didn't cost the team 3 points, and on a day it might have. I know you wanted to talk about Alisson, and then we'll transition into your Manchester City rant that you wanted to go on. But what's the beef with Alisson?
Well, I think my beef really lies with Liverpool, because
who doesn't have a beef with Liverpool.
They think they're the hottest shit in the land this year, and they're playing really good. They are, but whenever their goalkeeper that they just spent, however much on, it was a ton, and he thinks he can dribble these players, and Kelechi Iheanacho, former City man, striker, dispossesses him, and he's caught out, almost at the edge of the 18-yard box. It was just so funny to watch. I'm so happy. I was praying that Leicester at least scored one goal, just because I didn't want Liverpool fans to be like, oh, no one's still scored on us yet. So now they can't say that Leicester scored on them. The fact that they scored on you the way that they did, it just makes it that much sweeter for me, because I think Ederson's a better goalkeeper than Alisson, but that's probably a bias on my end.
Well, I mean, he is.
Yeah,
he is a better goalkeeper.
But he didn't play at the World Cup. Alisson got all the starts.
Very true.
And Ederson sat the bench. And I think Ederson's a better goalkeeper overall. I think he's a smarter goalkeeper. And Ederson passes the ball better than a lot of midfielders. So I think Ederson's a better goalkeeper, but that's not the point of this rant. I just think it is so funny the way that they conceded their first goal of the season, and the fact that if Leicester, because Leicester in the second half of that game, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it.
I unfortunately I didn't.
Yeah, Leicester bossed the second half. Liverpool, they looked uncertain a lot of times, and that mistake could have easily caused Liverpool to win. I think, honestly, Leicester had a really good chance to bring it back level and draw the game up. And if they would have not gotten the 3 points out of it, this rant would have gone on so much longer, just because the fact that his mistake led to part of that. And I'm sure Klopp chewed him out afterwards, but it was
Probably.
it was great. It was great.
It was great to see, because it's never. Obviously, you'd like to see teams get knocked down a peg, especially when they're flying high like Liverpool are. They didn't lose the game, so they're still going to be flying high. But the doubt is there now with the goalkeeper. And obviously, Karius is gone. Karius, you can't say would have done much better in that situation, especially with the mistakes that we've seen him make in the Champions League final and then pre-season as well. But doubt sets in for Alisson, for his defenders, and any attacker that's watching the clips from the weekend is going to be pressing Alisson in every single game. Obviously, they want to play out from the back like Guardiola brought over for City, and how City have been doing so well. And I think that's how many teams want to play now. They want to play out the back, but you have to have a goalkeeper that can do that. Alisson may be that guy, but he's not right now. So any attacker is going to be pushing and pressing Alisson harder than they're going to press even Ederson, who they already know is going to be way out of the 18-yard box. So if we look at Liverpool's next few games,
they got a tough schedule coming up.
They've got Tottenham, PSG, Southampton, Chelsea twice, and then Napoli. I mean, obviously, and they're not
And then
all in the
City
Premier
after
League,
that.
and then they've got Manchester City after that as well. That is not the run that you want to go on when your goalkeeper's just made that mistake. The only thing I can think that would be a respite for Liverpool is that they have the international break to kind of gather their heads and say, okay, it was a mistake. It was Leicester. We won the game. Move on. We'll see. They've been playing some great football, but they are yet to come up against Chelsea, the Chelseas and the cities of the Premier League. And they're going to play PSG. Right. That's going to be a tough game as well because they do not have an easy Champions League group. And Tottenham, they're going to want to come back from that Watford loss. So welcoming Liverpool to whatever stadium they're playing in now. I don't even know where it is. They're not going to want to lose a game, especially against a side like Liverpool who they know they can catch. So, we'll see how it goes.
And the thing is, like, against a city, a Chelsea, a United, a Tottenham.
Let's take United out of the equation.
That mistake. Okay, I mean, I was being nice. That mistake against a team like that is lethal. You don't make that mistake against someone like. I think the reason Alisson plays like that is because he just wants to. He's showing off, obviously.
He wants to prove himself.
But
we even saw the same last season. On the flip side of that was when Manchester City went to Anfield and played Liverpool. So that one ended 4-3. But there were so many defensive errors by City, and they were punished. Obviously, Liverpool couldn't keep the 4-1 lead that they had, but they got the 3 points in the end. But it's any team. If you go away to a top 6 team and you make defensive errors like that, you will get punished. And if Liverpool can't solve their problems at the back, it doesn't matter how good your midfield is, it doesn't matter how good your attack is. If you're going to be conceding silly goals like that, you're not going to win the Premier League.
Right. And right now, they are the team to beat.
Absolutely.
The way it looks.
And Watford are going to fly under the radar that way because everybody hates Liverpool. Everybody does. So
Liverpool sucks.
Watford will fly under the radar, and they can just play their game, continue going. They probably won't win the league, but we said that about Leicester. So,
they're. You know what? I think as long as they remain in the Premier League, that's awesome. And then if they can make a run like Burnley did, where they, end up making a Europa League spot, then that's almost as big of a fairy tale as winning the league for them, I think, because Watford, they're a bottom half table team generally. But if they can make Europa League even, that would be the highest of highs for their fans.
Yeah, and then maybe it's something that they can build on from there. And then we can kind of quickly go back to the conversation we were having before, saying how it's sad that the majority of the owners in the Premier League don't care about the soccer aspect or more the business aspect. That's what's great about these stories about Burnley qualifying for the Europa League, about Watford potentially this season qualifying for Europa League. That's what's great about the Premier League, is that even though there's so much negativity surrounding the top 6 and how it's a business, there's still those fairy tale stories in the background that you look at and you're so excited for these teams. Especially,
even though Burnley sucks this year.
Yeah, well, and I believe they're out of the Europa League as well, so maybe now they can focus on the Premier League a bit more. But we'll see. They played awfully against Manchester United. Yeah. We will not go into that. Let's get into your rant, Garrett.
Okay.
About Manchester City, who are 10 points, I believe.
Yep.
From a possible 12, which is pretty good start to the season.
Yep.
But you have some problems with that.
I have a gripe. City, I think a lot of what I'm watching, because last season we were playing the Newcastles, the Southamptons, everyone, and just blowing the doors off those teams.
Like how you played against Huddersfield,
right?
A couple weeks ago.
That's what it was like, and that was a great game. I have zero gripes about that game. I thought we played amazing. But then the following week we play Wolves. We draw Wolves. We should not draw Wolves. They played well. Their goal was lucky, and then we got a penalty that should or should not have been called, maybe, and that bothered me enough. But then we go to Newcastle and we barely beat Newcastle. And that's when I'm like, okay, something's not going right here. I know Pep can't play the same exact formation and do everything he did last season because everyone caught on to us towards the end, and people, they would sit 11 defenders in the box and just not let us do anything. So I know we can't do the exact same model we had last year. Otherwise, we wouldn't get anywhere just because people know how we play now. But I think that, and I'm not sure why yet, I have a couple theories, but something isn't going the way it needs to go. And I think a lot of those problems may hopefully stem from the fact that Kevin De Bruyne isn't in the team right now, because he is greatly missed, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I think the midfield is an area where we are lacking. And this week we played a little bit different of a formation than we played against Wolves. I think we played 2 strikers this weekend with wingers and 2 midfielders rather than 3. We played a back 4. Like I said last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago, I don't think Gundogan's cutting it, and I still don't. But I'm really hoping this is all it is that it just stems from Kevin De Bruyne not being in the team, because something, whenever we're going forward, just isn't right. We're not connecting on all of our passes like we normally do, with City having 600 passes in a game or something stupid like that. The chances are there, but no one's latching on to the chances like they were 6 months ago. So I want to say that it's De Bruyne being gone, but Mendy's also there, and he's providing a lot more service into the midfield or into the box that De Bruyne does a lot. But De Bruyne, he does a lot more than that. He gets back. He'll go all the way back to the defense and play. If any of you know me, I'm a huge Kevin De Bruyne lover as well.
Oh, you've never said.
Oh, I fucking love Kevin De Bruyne.
That was a joke. It was a joke.
Oh, it wasn't a very good one. Other than that, like, Newcastle shouldn't even be in the game with us. Like, we're way too good for Newcastle to be, they lost by a goal to us. And had it not been for Kyle Walker's absolute screamer,
bullet,
yeah, fucking missile, we would have drawn them, and that's just unacceptable. Especially
Kyle Walker's bullet deserved one of those.
Especially with the way Liverpool and even Chelsea right now, and Watford even though I predict they will fall off soon. They play United this weekend.
So maybe they won't fall off soon.
Yeah, maybe it'll be 2 weeks. But the way Chelsea and Liverpool are playing right now, we're not up to par. Even though we did beat Chelsea in the Community Shield, I think Chelsea's playing better than anyone anticipated right now. But the way Liverpool in particular are playing, we got to step it up. Like, we're not even going to challenge for it playing Newcastle the way we just did. I'm not happy with how we're playing. There's a lot of mistakes and sloppiness. And I know De Bruyne, he bosses a lot of the midfield with Fernandinho and Silva. So if we get him back and I see us playing more cohesively rather than it looks kind of like we're just hitting balls into the middle, hoping someone's there. If not, then we're kind of like lost. I just want us to look like we know what we're doing out there again.
Yeah.
And smashing 6 goals past 10 teams in the league a year. So
do you think it's a case of overconfidence then?
Coming into,
obviously, last season was a record-breaking season. You broke more records than I think many ever expected anybody to ever do. 100 plus goals, all of those. So coming into the season, you kind of anybody would expect that to continue. Same team, couple new players.
Couple better players.
Couple new, better players, and then you've got the youth, Phil Foden specifically, that can come off the bench.
Yeah.
And so maybe I think a little bit of overconfidence of thinking, and it's not a bad thing because we've all done it, but maybe this season is
humbling.
Yeah, and not you. I think City are still going to win the league, and you've still not lost a game. You've not played very well, but you've not lost a game yet. So maybe it will be more of a humbling season for City. Just kind of bring City back down from the heights of last season, and for it to be a bit more competitive. It can only be better for the Premier League for it to be more competitive, because towards the end of the last season, it was just like, okay, whatever.
I couldn't disagree with you more. I want it to be that way every year.
Yeah.
In my favor anyway. But yeah, the cockiness I can understand, especially, we have 4 England players who made it really far in the World Cup. So they're feeling good. They played for the best team in England last year. So those guys are all feeling really good about themselves. Even though Sterling didn't do well for England particularly, he scored this weekend. Sterling had a good goal.
Yep.
But Mahrez, he has not come into the team yet. Really, he hasn't gotten an assist or a goal yet. He hasn't done a whole lot for me yet. I think he looks good out there, and he looks like he belongs out there, but he hasn't produced anything yet.
Yep.
He hasn't gotten a goal or assist, and that's what we need out of him. That's what he was doing, at Leicester. I want him feeding a ton of service into the middle for those players,
and he does
tap those goals.
He kind of thrives at being that main man. He was the main man at Leicester, and now he comes into a team of main men.
From it. Right. Everyone's the main man at a different club. And when De Bruyne gets back, he's even further down in the shadows. So I just hope that when De Bruyne gets back, we have a little bit more cohesion as a team, and because De Bruyne, he really controls the pace of the game really well, I think. Him and Silva are both really good at it. They can slow down everything when we need to, or speed us up if we have to. And then De Bruyne's passing is, unquestionable. He passes as good as anyone. And I hope that's the main issue that I'm seeing. But I can't put my finger on what it might be. I don't think it's Pep. I think
no,
Pep,
it's not.
It might be. The team selection has changed a lot, though. I don't know if he's trying to figure something out.
He
but
probably doesn't know. To lose a player like De Bruyne for 2 to 3 months isn't something that you expect to happen every year or ever, because he doesn't really have an injury record that would suggest it. So he may just not know his second best lineup, and he's still trying to figure that out.
Exactly. He's changing the team sheet up every week, and it kills me to not have Leroy Sané in there week after week, just because I know how good he is. But I do know that players do have to sit out, because we have a really stacked bench, and that's where my comfort lies with City, is that even if something does go wrong with certain players, that we do have so many players that are more than capable of stepping in.
Yeah,
but we need those players to produce. And so far for me, Mahrez isn't. I think Bernardo Silva needs a little more playing time too.
For my fantasy team specifically.
Well, your fantasy team and for my psyche, because he was playing really well at the beginning of the season.
He was.
And now he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time in the past few weeks, and I don't think he deserves to not get playing time. Honestly, if it were me, I would put Bernardo Silva in the midfield rather than Gundogan, because Bernardo Silva is more of a central midfield player to me than a winger, and we have wingers with a lot of pace and a lot of skill, so I think he should go into the midfield rather than Gundogan. Play with one striker, the 2 wingers, 3 midfielders like we're used to, and then 4 at the back. But that's just me. And rant over. I'm done. I'm pissed off enough.
All right, quick shout out to DeAndre
Yedlin. The American dream.
Quick shout out to Seattle's own DeAndre Yedlin.
Come on, Seattle!
Congratulations to DeAndre Legend. Yet I can't say the name, Garrett.
Ryan! Fight and win!
That is a tough name to say. DeAndre Yedlin. His parents did a number on me.
Seattle Sounders, here we go! Here we go! Here we go!
Pathetic. Next week, we'll talk about... Oh, yeah.
We have nothing to talk about next week, folks. We're so sorry. We're going to come on here, and I will be crocheting cup holders, and I will walk you through the whole process. Tune in. Thank you.
Oh, that'd be excellent. Okay, that's the end of episode 7 for this week. Next week, obviously, there's no Premier League football because of the international break, but we'll be back talking about what if the Premier League or soccer as a whole had a Hall of Fame. Who would be in it? Who would you want to be in it? And why should they be in it? Dave, if you're listening, write in. Anybody else that wants to write in, you can email studsupsoccershow@gmail.com. Tell us who you would want to be in the Soccer Hall of Fame. That is studsupsoccershow@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, do anything you want. Subscribe on iTunes, leave a review. As long as it's 5 stars. We love you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.